You sit there watching the screen flicker red, numbers plummeting, heart racing as if lions are closing in, and you wonder why it feels so primal, so visceral, like you're not in a boardroom or bedroom, but out in the open savannah where one wrong move means death. The stock market crash isn't just numbers on a chart. It's a mirror to the ancient wiring in your brain, the same circuitry that once saved your ancestors from predators, but now turns rational investors into a stampeding herd, trampling everything in blind panic. Society pretends markets are logical machines driven by data, earnings reports, interest rates, but strip away the suits and screens, and what you see is raw instinct, the fear of being left behind, the terror of isolation, the uncontrollable urge to run when others run, because in the wild, the lone gazelle is the dead gazelle. You think you're above it, that your portfolio is built on careful analysis. But when the first sell orders hit and the crowd bolts, your body floods with cortisol, adrenaline spikes, vision tunnels, and suddenly you're selling at the bottom. Not because the fundamentals changed, but because the herd is moving and your primal code screams to follow or die. This is not weakness. It's survival programming gone wrong in a modern arena where the lions are invisible, but the panic is the same. You have confused market volatility with mortal threat, and every crash replays the savannah stampede. One animal startles, the rest bolt without knowing why, crushing the slow or the stubborn underfoot. The illusion is that you're an independent thinker, but write it down now. The lies you tell yourself: I won't panic sell next time. My strategy is bulletproof. Markets are rational. I'm not influenced by the crowd. Read them aloud and hear how fragile they sound, how they mask the animal beneath. Admit it. You are stuck in a cycle where instinct overrides intellect, leading to losses that compound not just financially, but mentally, eroding your confidence, your edge, your future. Blind repetition of rational scripts in an irrational game is self-sabotage, a slow bleed in the portfolio of life. Some men will feel this sting and recalibrate alone, tracking their triggers, journaling trades, building mental barriers against the herd pull, emerging as lone predators who buy when blood runs in the streets. Most won't, hitting sell tomorrow when the next dip hits, wondering why wealth slips away. For those who see the pattern repeating across cycles, and no solo discipline will fail under pressure because the wiring is too deep, there are structured routes, narrow, proven systems forged by those who survived multiple crashes, protocols that rewire instincts, enforce contrarian habits, map the savannah of markets without the luxury of trial error. I state only the mechanics. Every day ignoring the stampede in your blood is another day closer to being trampled. Every day confronting it is reclamation. The fire of survival still burns. Feed it logic before the herd consumes you, or accept the dust of the savannah as your fate. Your biology does not distinguish between lions and losses. Wake up. You tell yourself it's just numbers on a screen, but when the market plummets and your portfolio bleeds red, your body reacts as if death is breathing down your neck with sweat on your palms, a pounding heart, and an urge to flee that overrides every rational thought you've ever had. This isn't coincidence. It's the same neural circuitry that evolved to spot lions in the tall grass, now misfiring in the glow of trading terminals, turning seasoned investors into frantic animals bolting from an unseen threat. Society dresses markets in graphs and algorithms, pretending they run on pure reason, but peel back the veneer and you see the savannah stampede in full force, where one startled trader hits sell, triggering a chain reaction of blind flight that crushes billions in value without a single fundamental change. Your ancestors survived by mimicking the herd. If one ran, all ran, because questioning the panic meant becoming the straggler picked off by predators. But in markets, this herd instinct turns opportunity into catastrophe as you sell low, not from data, but from the cortisol flood that screams survival over strategy. You believe you're immune, that your diversified holdings and stop-loss orders will hold the line. But when the crowd surges, your amygdala hijacks the prefrontal cortex, narrowing focus to immediate escape, and suddenly you're dumping assets at fire sale prices, regretting it only when the dust settles and the smart money buys back in. This primal mismatch is no accident. Markets amplify the same social contagion that saves herds from real lions, dooms portfolios to irrational swings, where fear spreads faster than facts, and isolation feels like suicide even as staying put would save you. Write down the illusions you cling to about your trading psyche. I trade on fundamentals alone. Panic is for amateurs. I won't follow the herd next time. Markets reflect reality instantly. My emotions don't control my decisions. Read them aloud and feel how they crumble under the weight of biological truth, how they hide the animal instincts that have cost you fortunes in missed gains or needless losses. Admit it, you are stuck in a loop where ancient wiring sabotages modern wealth building, turning calculated calculated risks into knee-jerk retreats that erode your edge and your future. Blind repetition of rational mantras in an irrational brain is self-deception, a slow erosion of capital and confidence. Some men will confront this alone by dissecting past traits, mapping their physiological triggers like rising heart rate or tunnel vision, building biofeedback routines to interrupt the panic cycle, emerging as contrarian hunters who thrive when the herd flees. Most won't, refreshing charts tomorrow and selling into the next dip without a second thought. For those who recognize the wiring runs too deep for solo fixes, seeing how each crash replays the Savannah script with predictable devastation. There are narrow protocols forged by survivors of multiple busts, structured rewiring systems with neural tracking, simulated stress drills, contrarian habit enforcement, decision trees that override instinct without the luxury of live market failures. I state only the circuitry. Every day denying the primal pull is another day wired for loss. Every day rewiring is reclamation. The fire of survival can be harnessed, redirected, or let it burn you in the stampede. Your brain does not know the difference between a bear market and a real bear. Rewire. You convince yourself that your decisions are yours alone, but when the market turns and the first wave of sell-offs hits, you find yourself swept into the flow, not because the data demands it, but because the primal urge to stick with the group overrides everything, turning individual traders into a collective stampede that mirrors the savannah, where gazelles bolt en masse from a rustle in the bush, not knowing if it's wind or a lion, but running anyway to avoid being the outlier left for dead. This herd instinct, hardwired for survival in a world of real predators, now amplifies market crashes into self-fulfilling prophecies, where one big sale signals danger, triggering a cascade of fear that floods the system with sell orders, driving prices lower not from economic reality, but from social contagion that spreads faster than any news headline. Your body doesn't distinguish between the threat of bankruptcy and being eaten alive. The same sympathetic nervous system kicks in, elevating heart rate, sharpening senses for flight, dulling the rational brain that might hold the line. And before you know it, you're part of the rush, selling assets you believed in yesterday because the crowd's momentum feels like safety, even as it tramples value underfoot. Crashes like 1929, 1987, 2008, or 2020 weren't just economic events. They were primal panics replaying the Savannah script, with flash crashes accelerating the herd flight in seconds, wiping trillions as algorithms mimic the instinctual bolt, programmed to follow trends that humans evolved to obey without question. You think experience insulates you? That years of trading build immunity, but each crash exposes the lie, as even veterans join the exodus when isolation feels too risky, forgetting that in markets, the herd often runs off cliffs while the contrarian survives by standing still. Write down the illusions about your independence now. I trade on my own analysis. Crowd behavior doesn't affect me. Panics are for the uninformed. My stops protect against instinct. Next time I'll hold through the storm. Read them aloud and sense how they mask the biological pull, how they ignore the social wiring that has doomed portfolios since tulip mania echoed the first herd rushes. Admit it, you are stuck in denial of the herd's grip, where instinct trumps intellect, leading to repeated losses that scar not just accounts, but your resolve to build wealth. Blind repetition of independent trader myths in a socially driven game is voluntary ruin, a slow surrender to the stampede. Some men will break free alone by simulating crashes in journals, tracking herd signals like volume spikes or sentiment shifts, cultivating detachment through meditation or rules that forbid action in panic hours, emerging as solitary hunters who profit from the flock's flight. Most won't, monitoring tickers tomorrow and joining the next rush without pause. For those who trace the instinct back to its roots and know solo detachment will crack under real pressure because the wiring predates reason, there are forged countermeasures. Narrow systems built from crash survivors' logs, with biomonitored drills, automated contrarian triggers, psychological conditioning sequences that desensitize the herd pull without live market risks. I state only the instinct. Every day yielding to the herd is another trampled opportunity. Every day defying it is reclamation. The fire of independence flickers. Shield it from the wind, or let the stampede snuff it out. Your genes favor the group, override them. You believe crashes are triggered by external shocks like recessions or policy shifts, but dig deeper and you'll see they accelerate through the same viral fear that turns a single startled animal into a full savannah stampede, where one trader's margin call infects the next via whispers of doom, spreading panic exponentially until the entire market is in free fall, not from facts, but from the infectious power of perceived threat that humans evolved to amplify for group survival. This contagion isn't modern, it's the ancient alarm system where a rustle in the grass mass signals danger to one who bolts and cues the herd to follow without verification, saving lives from real predators. But in markets, it creates feedback loops of selling that beget more selling, as falling prices confirm the fear, drawing in algorithms programmed to detect momentum and amplify it, turning a minor dip into a catastrophic rout. Your rational mind knows to buy fear and sell greed, but when the contagion hits, mirror neurons fire, making you feel the crowd's terror as your own, overriding analysis with the primal need to conform, because isolation in the wild meant death, and in trading, holding while others flee feels like suicide, even as history shows it's the path to riches. Every major crash echoes this. The dot-com bubble burst not just from overvaluation, but from fear virally spreading through message boards and media. 2008 from Lehman rumors igniting bank runs. 2020 from COVID headlines fueling global flight. Each time the herd runs blind, leaving value for the few who resist the infection. You think your diversified strategy shields you from this, that you're not susceptible to the virus of sentiment, but when volatility spikes and headlines scream apocalypse, your portfolio becomes the battlefield where instinct battles intellect, and too often instinct wins, selling you out at the nadir. Write down the illusions about your immunity now. I ignore media hype. My decisions are data-driven only. Contagion affects others, not me. Algorithms make markets efficient. I can spot fear early and capitalize. Read them aloud and recognize how they blind you to the biological spread, how they dismiss the social wiring that has turned bull markets to bear in hours. Admit it, you are stuck underestimating the contagion, where fear's virus sabotages your edge, leading to trades that follow the flow instead of fighting it, compounding losses across cycles. Blind repetition of isolated trader myths in a connected world is voluntary infection, a slow capitulation to the herd's disease. Some men will inoculate alone by studying historical contagions, building sentiment filters like ignoring intraday noise or using contrary indicators, cultivating isolation routines during volatility to break the mirror neuron chain, emerging as immune predators who feast on the panic's remnants. Most won't, absorbing tomorrow's headlines and joining the viral rush unchecked. For those who map the spread and know solo immunity will falter when the next wave hits, because the wiring favors infection over isolation, there are antiviral frameworks, narrow systems crafted from crash autopsies with real-time sentiment tracking drills, psychological quarantine protocols, contrarian automation that blocks herd signals without manual override risks. I state only the virus. Every day exposed to contagion is another infection vector. Every day vaccinated is reclamation. The fire of caution can contain the spread. Isolate it, or let fear consume your capital. Your social brain craves the herd. Starve it. You assume markets are efficient machines where prices reflect all available information in real time, but every crash exposes the savannah truth that they are chaotic herds driven by primal fear rather than pure logic, where a single bad earnings report or geopolitical rumor startles the group into flight, amplifying minor events into major meltdowns as traders bolt en masse without pausing to verify the threat. This illusion of rationality stems from economic theories like the efficient market hypothesis that ignore the biological undercurrents, treating humans as calculators when we're wired as survivors who prioritize group signals over individual analysis, leading to bubbles that inflate on greed's contagion and burst on fear's stampede, crushing value in ways no model predicts. Your portfolio strategy might be built on back-tested data and diversified assets, believing it insulates you from the madness. But when the herd turns, the same wiring that made your ancestors run from shadows overrides your spreadsheets, making you question holdings not because fundamentals shifted, but because solitude feels lethal in a fleeing crowd. Historical crashes like Black Monday in 1987 or the flash crash of 2010 weren't just technical glitches. They were primal panics where program trading mimicked the savannah bolt, accelerating the drop as automated systems followed the momentum, wiping trillions in minutes while humans watched helpless, their instincts screaming to join the escape. You tell yourself your edge comes from discipline and research, that you're not swayed by the masses, but the next volatility spike will test that lie, as social proof pulls harder than any PE ratio, turning contrarian intent into conformist action. Write down the illusions about market efficiency now. Prices always reflect true value. Crashes are predictable with enough enough data. I'm immune to behavioral biases. Diversification stops the pain. The crowd is usually wrong, but I follow facts. Read them aloud and acknowledge how they veil the animal chaos, how they overlook the evolutionary forces that have turned rational actors into irrational herds since the first speculative bubbles. Admit it, you are stuck trusting illusions of efficiency that blind you to the savanna dynamics, leading to holding sold in fear or bought in frenzy, compounding suboptimal returns over lifetimes. Blind repetition of efficient market myths in a behaviorally driven arena is voluntary delusion, a slow leak in your wealth vessel. Some men will dismantle this alone by studying behavioral finance texts, auditing past trades for herd influences, implementing rules like mandatory waiting periods during volatility to counter the pull, emerging as skeptical hunters who exploit the illusion rather than fall for it. Most won't, buying the dip tomorrow on hype or selling on rumor without scrutiny. For those who dissect the crashes, and no solo debunking will waver when the next illusion shatters under pressure, because the wiring favors conformity over skepticism. There are deprogramming structures, narrow systems derived from behavioral autopsies of crashes with bias detection protocols, simulated illusion drills, rational override exercises that fortify against the savanna pull without repeated real-world burns. I state only the mirage. Every day buying the illusion is another distorted trade. Every day shattering it is reclamation. The fire of clarity can pierce the fog, ignite it, or let the mirage lead you astray. Your mind craves order. Impose it. You recognize now that crashes aren't anomalies, but inevitable replays of primal flight, where the savanna's lessons of herd survival clash with modern wealth's demands for contrarian calm, leaving most trampled while a few thrive by rewriting their instincts to hold when others bolt. This freedom isn't granted. It's forged through deliberate confrontation with the wiring that equates market pain with mortal peril, turning fear from foe to signal, panic from destroyer to opportunity. Your journey ends not in avoidance but in mastery, where the next red screen triggers not flight but focus, allowing you to buy the blood while the herd flees, compounding wealth as history's winners always have by defying the stampede that dooms the masses. The illusion shattered, you stand alone on the plain, no longer prey but predator, scanning for the weak spots the panic exposes. Write the final illusions that chain you to the herd. Crashes are unpredictable black swans. My gut instincts protect me. Holding through pain is reckless. The market will recover without me acting. I'm too wired to change. Burn the list and admit out loud that you have been running with the herd, letting primal code dictate losses that could have been gains. A cycle of self-inflicted wounds in the arena of abundance. Some men will claim this sovereignty alone, immersing in crash case studies, biohacking stress responses with cold exposure or breathwork to blunt the cortisol spike, scripting personal rules like no trades in the first hour of volatility, building a fortress mind that profits from the savanna's chaos. Most won't, scrolling tickers tomorrow and succumbing to the next rush as always. For those who feel the weight of repeated stampedes and no solo mastery will fracture under the next lion's roar, because the code runs deeper than willpower. There are ultimate recalibrations, narrow, battle-tested systems assembled from the ashes of lost fortunes, with integrated neural rewiring, live simulation arenas, instinct override algorithms, mentorship chains that enforce the contrarian path without the solitude of trial by fire. The gate demands proof of your scars. I state only the escape. Every day bound to the script is another trampled cycle. Every day breaking free is eternal edge. The primal code for market mastery. Recognize the wiring, feel the fear but act against it. Defy the herd, buy when they sell, shatter illusions. Efficiency is myth. Contain contagion, isolate from noise. Harness the fire, turn instinct to ally. The screen fades, but the savanna waits. Stand still, let the herd pass. Claim the plain. The fire roars now, feed it crashes, rise as the apex.